The Philadelphia Eagles have been one of the most fascinating teams to watch over the last 10 years. Fans have experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and in the midst of it all, there have been plenty of myths along the way. From whatever happened to DeMarco Murray in 2015 to the collapse of the Dream Team and so much more, this series will take a deeper dive into some of the biggest myths surrounding the Eagles of the last 10 years and beyond. My name is Liam Jenkins and welcome to the first episode of Eagles Mythbusters. Before we get started though guys, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you like what we do, it would mean the world to us if you could leave your opinions in the comments and leave a like as well. And don't forget, you can get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports content at phillysportsnetwork.com. We're going to kick things off with one of the more recent Eagles myths, and that's the idea that Carson Wentz targets Zach Ertz too much. This has been a talking point for months after the end of the season, and kind of understandably so. Ertz is coming off a record-setting season, and one where his 1,163 yards shone through on all the rainy days in what was a rollercoaster campaign. But does that really hold any weight? In 11 games Wentz played in last season, Ertz was targeted 106 times. That's an average of roughly 9.64 targets per game. That does seem like a lot, especially when you consider that overall, Ertz accounted for 33% of targets that were split between the team's top 6 receivers. His 156 targets ranked 6th in the league, and of course he led all tight ends, but the question is, was that down to Carson Wentz forcing him the ball? Well, handily enough, we've got another quarterback to take a sample size from, and that man is Nick Foles. And in the 5 games that he was quarterback in 2018, Ertz was targeted 50 times, averaging, believe it or not, 10 targets per game, which is 0.36 of an increase over Carson Wentz. Now, of course, this is a smaller sample size, but with 69 targets, including the postseason, it's not as if Ertz suddenly became invisible. In fact, Ertz was targeted on 26.4 of Carson Wentz's pass attempts and 25.6% of the time when Nick Foles was at the helm. And it didn't exactly differ last season. In 2017, when Foles stepped into the offense, Ertz was still targeted close to 8 times per game. And if we go back even further, when Ertz had come back from a rib injury, over the second half of 2016, no tight end saw more targets than the Stanford product, who led the league with 75. Ertz also has 15 red zone catches, which is the most in the NFL over the last 2 years. And I don't think this is a case of anybody over-targeting Ertz, be that Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. I think this comes down to the Eagles having a generational talent who set a new record for catches in 2018, scoring 8 touchdowns in the process and eclipsing Jimmy Graham for the most catches through the first 6 seasons of a tight end in NFL history. And if you've got a talent like that, who is so dominant that Ertz is shaping up to be, who consistently gets open, why wouldn't you rinse and repeat and make that a focal point of your offense until a defense can find a way to stop you? One of the big reasons that Alshon Jeffrey was signed was to take weight out of the middle of the field, and as a result, coordinators would have to respect the outside threat, maybe deviate more attention to the safeties outside, and thus taking a strain off the shoulders of Zach Ertz and opening up the offense for Ertz to have an even bigger banquet to feast, which is exactly what he's done. Now, that's not to say this myth isn't completely substance, as it certainly does have some weight, and in 2018, I think Wentz was hampered by his ACL recovery, and is documented in several film rooms that show a near hesitance almost to come off of his first read and move around the pocket or put weight down on that leg. I think that could have definitely played into the fact why Wentz felt so comfortable going to a security blanket so often. But at the end of the day, if your primary read is a physical tight end with the catch radius of one of those promotional tube men, why would you have to come off that read? This isn't new to Doug Peterson either. Dougie P had another star tight end before he arrived in Philadelphia, and his name was Travis Kelce, who, believe it or not, last year only had 13 less receptions than Zach Ertz. Do we hear that Patrick Mahomes was targeting Kelce too much? Do we hear that Patrick Mahomes was a selfish teammate? Not at all, but for some reason, the media ran wild with this narrative during the offseason, and it just simply wasn't true. The bottom line is that this offense is built for tight ends to be a focal point, whether that be as a receiver or a fundamental blocking option, as evidenced by Dallas Goedert's emergence as a blocker and was one of the top 5 blockers in the league during his rookie season. Now again, moving forward, I think it's safe to say that there's going to be plenty more attention put on the shoulders of Zach Ertz, but that's not to say that Zach Ertz is being over-targeted. I think that he's being utilised as any NFL coach would seek to. The Eagles are one of the most selfless teams in the league. They do not care who scores a touchdown as long as that offense ramps up the score, put games to bed, and more importantly can fly as a cohesive unit where culture takes priority. And Ertz and Wentz are two of the most selfless guys on that team, and I think their lifestyle, the way they carry themselves, the way they present themselves to the media, and the work they do off the field really embodies every single sentiment of that. Zach Ertz is truly one of the most dominant tight ends in the league right now, and with Rob Gronkowski out of the picture, I would say he's arguably the league's best. And if you have the best tight end in the league, would you not expect him to be your top target? Myth: Carson Wentz targets Zach Ertz too much. Debunked. Let me know what you think though, guys. What are your thoughts on this myth? Does Carson Wentz target Zach Ertz too much? Is there weight to this argument that I'm not seeing? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to again hit subscribe. Thank you so much for all of your support from myself, Liam Jenkins. You can follow me at Liam